What was the worst field trip you ever went on in school? Trip to a fort. We had a look from the bus since they wouldn't allow us in, and went back to school. They're trying to learn for free. Use your phony guns as clubs. Had the opportunity to do an overnight stay at a zoo once as a class trip, which included seeing all the animals after hours, feeding times, and getting to go into some of the enclosures to feed certain animals. Unfortunately, only 2 of us voted for that option. Everyone else voted to go see Jurassic Park 2 at the movies. I'm still bummed about not going to the zoo 25 years later. Actually, I'm going to revise that. Worst field trip was a trip we took for tourism class. We planned to do a high wire rope course, abseiling and whitewater rafting. We went whitewater rafting first, and the rest of the trip was cancelled after a girl drowned. Several of us nearly drowned. Part of the class got swept away downstream and had to be rescued while the rest of us had to pull our dead classmate out of the river and then continue down the river to the get out point. All the while suffering hypothermia due to being out there for hours trying to get our classmate's body out while in soaking wet wetsuits. The rest of the day was spent smoking while trying to get warm and waiting to be interviewed by the cops. Second worst was 6 months later when our traumatized class was forced onto high-speed jet boats in extremely low water levels, when none of us felt comfortable going anywhere near a boat yet. Tutors told us to suck it up, get on the boat, or we'd fail the year. Yes, that sounds much worse than not going to the zoo. Yay. I'm not even sure why the zoo thing was the first thing I thought of, lol. To be honest, I was thinking about school in terms of being a kid. And the second one was more when we were adults. Well, I was 18 at the time of the accident, but turned 19 that same year, and the oldest student was in his 40s. We went to a beach where horse show crabs mate. Hundreds and hundreds of horse show crabs latched onto one another and jizzing in the 95-degree heat. The smell was unimaginable. Hey, if it makes you feel better, horse show crabs are a misnomer. And they're actually distant relatives of the sea scorpion. You were a part of the largest scorpionog to ever grace the United States. You watched more arachnids frick than any other redditor will in their entire life. My sister watched her friend suffocate and die in a pile of salt on a school trip to the salt processing plant. They let the kids climb on the mountains of salt and she hit a hollow spot and just fell in. Salt closed over her and they couldn't pull her out in time. How was the field trip? My friend died. I think they were in 5th grade. Is there a news article about this? I have a morbid curiosity and would like to know more. We went to a community college. That was pretty fun, but it was a girls only field trip, so the pool boys were stuck listening to speeches about becoming a man. Now listen here boys, you don't need no fancy pants education, what you'll need is to be manly. Now here's an axe. Go chop down as many trees as you can so I can build a log cabin and list it on Airbnb. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. We went to the canoe museum. You know what is not fascinating? Canoes. You do not want to be a Swanson. To the Museum of Work. Yeah, take the 8-year-old children and show them the magical and interesting world of the 8-hour workday. Brilliant idea. If it is work 8 years old are interested in like firefighters, pilots or nurses, I think it is a good idea for a field trip. But probably it was an exhibit of office supplies. That would have been cool. We actually visited the fire station once and it was a blast. But this museum was about the textile industry. We went around for 3 hours and looked at 150-year-old sewing machines and yarn spindles. It was so boring we all lost the will to live at age 8. We went to the fire station in 1st grade. We were getting back on the bus and as I was going up the steps to board the bus, the kid in front of me turned around and vomited all over me. My hair, my face, the front of my shirt, my shoes, covered in vomit. Had to spend the rest of the day at school and the walk home in vomit, hair and clothes. They didn't call your parents? Or at least offer you a wash up and some clothes from Lost and Found? That's awful. I think their reasoning was it was the end of the day and I could clean up at home. I grew up very poor and was allowed to wear one outfit to school for the whole week, so I imagine I was afraid of coming home and my parents getting upset that I wasn't wearing the shirt I was supposed to be. Can't tell you the worst field trip that I didn't go on. In 5th grade we were supposed to go see some circus thing. It was the 11th of September, 2001. I was actually on a field trip that day when one of my teachers got to call on her cell phone, which stuck out in my head, because cell phones were so rare at the time. I remember her being upset and talking to some other teachers in hushed voices, but the field trip continued as normal. That was a weird day. The teachers didn't tell us anything. My elementary school was like 30 minutes away from DC, so we weren't allowed outside at all, but a lot of kids' parents came to pick them up. In 6th grade our entire middle school went to a high school play. It was so boring that one of our teachers fell asleep. I remember I went to a high school play to a chaotic high school for all of my middle school years. Six Flags. All everyone wanted to do was shop and didn't want to ride any rides, so I rode them all by myself and nobody even realized I was gone. Who goes to Six Flags to buy it? That's what I'm saying. Get there early, go on rides, eat, then maybe have a look around the shops before hopping on the rides again. But don't spend all day shopping for frick's sake. Everyone I've ever gone with has done that so I just started going by myself. Thing is, it sucks doing things like that by yourself. Such lame people. I remember my 8th grade field trip. We went to Hershey Park and the teachers delayed us by 2 hours. Bonus. On the way back some girls broke the coach bus door handle and accidentally threw it at me. My head bled the bus ride home. I went to a theme park once. We weren't allowed to go in roller coasters. Like, why would you bring us here then? We went to the museum. If I recall correctly, it was a bodies exhibit, where they have actual human cadavers, and I remember 2 kids in my class fighting and knocking down a fetus jar. It didn't break, but our teacher was so pissed she just ended our tour and argued with us all the way back to school. We went to Body Worlds too. A kid in my class got in trouble for calling it Peanuts Is Are Us. Give that kid an award. I had to go to one of those too. It was the weirdest experience of my life. Apparently, preserved human body parts can look quite delicious. I don't know why the buns looked very biscuit-like and the meat looked, well, meaty. The fetus jar, unfortunately, reminded me of my grandmother's strawberry jam. The icing on the cake was that, when we left the museum, we saw an ambulance and medics treating some old dude who had passed out nearby. My classmate, who wanted to be a doctor, looked over and said something along the lines of, "Cool. A live exhibit." It was, a time. Slaughterhouse to see how hot dogs are made. Elementary school, early 60s, Rapid City, South Dakota. Black Hills Packing was the company. No longer there. Condos or apartments there now. If cows and pigs had ghosts, that place would be haunted as frick. I'm going to Bovine University. We went to a funeral home in elementary school. One kid passed out as the nice old creepy as frick guy explained the embalming process as we all stood around the embalming table. I think it was the line, "And the blood runs down these gutters on the sides of the table," that put the kid over the edge. Who the hell takes kids to a funeral home for a field trip? Ha, this is the best part. I went to a Catholic school run by nuns. One of those crazy old penguins came up with the idea. I've never heard nuns referred to as penguins, but I love it. We visited a rainforest at night. It was actually really cool, but I had recently lost weight due to a bad case of pneumonia, so my pants were loose. I bent over to pick up my backpack and accidentally flashed everyone in the middle of a forest under a full moon. Someone pointed out my round, pale ass perfectly matched the moon and I was called Moon Moon for the rest of the year. You are now tagged as Moon Moon. Movie theater field trip. Sounds pretty standard, right? We were gonna get to miss school for a day and go see some movie in an empty theater before the doors officially open to the public. It was gonna be great. So we get to the theater and are escorted to the concession stand. We go to pull out our money to buy snacks, but are told that we're not allowed to buy our own snacks. No, we have to take what they've already prepared for us. What we get is a little kid's snack box, which includes what is probably half of a small popcorn, a small Pepsi, a fun size M&Ms, and a freaking Good and Plenty. So everyone is pissed off already, but things are only going to get worse from here. We're led into the theater proper, which again is entirely empty, because the place isn't open to the public yet. We start to walk up to the back of the theater, when we are stopped by our teachers. We are told that we have to sit in the front rows. We have the entire freaking theater to ourselves, and could get the best seats in the house. But no, we have to sit in the goddamn front with our necks tilted back all the way just to see the screen. And then the lights go out, and the movie starts. And the theater erupts into chaos. See, there's one other little problem I neglected to mention before. At no point were we told what movie we were going to see. Most of us didn't care at the time, since either way we were getting out of school. But once the movie started, we started to care. It looked to be some sort of 80s action cartoon movie. It heavily reminded me of He-Man, but I'm almost certain it wasn't actually He-Man. Keep in mind, we were middle schoolers in the early 2000s. There were any number of other, more recent movies they could have shown us, but for some crazy reason, they decided that the best thing they could show a group of already angry middle schoolers was some 80s cartoon film, and not even something good like a Disney film. We basically rioted. There was screaming, there was food being thrown, and even after the teachers finally managed to calm everyone down, literally nobody watched the movie. We all just sat and talked with each other, completely ignoring it. Within 10 minutes of the start of the film, the teachers just gave up and let us do whatever we wanted. The whole thing was a disaster and I have no idea what they were thinking with that field trip. Thanks for watching the Reddit Radio. If you liked this video, please subscribe and click the like button. Click the top video to see my latest upload, and the bottom video is a random selection pick to interest you.